I am super excited to introduce this next individual. This gal I spent about 10 minutes getting to know her on the phone. I'd never met Jan before, but I learned so much about her. Not only is she one of the most renowned body language experts, she is a phenomenal person. To listen to her, and you guys are going to get an opportunity to sit and understand a little bit about her mindset and how she can deliver. It's such an interesting and intriguing thing to me personally to understand what she does. She has lent her skills as far as, her expertise in body language and persuasion and influence to dozens of TV and print media outlets. But she's also the author of 5 different books. Five. I wrote them down here. I just want you to hear them, because if you want to go to Amazon and get them, you should, because her topic of content is incredible, because she helps you communicate by reading the nonverbal language that the body puts off when you're conversating with someone from your family, or you're conversating with someone from a potential customer, a potential client, someone who you're trying to introduce into your business. You can read their nonverbal cues. So here's her 5 books. You ready for this? We'll put them in the chat. We'll type them in the chat so you can see the titles. But here we go. Let Me See Your Body Talk. That one just reminded me of Grease. I don't know why. There's a song from the 5th grade that just stands out to me. Let me see your body talk. Never mind. I digress. Freeway of Love. Judge the Jury. That one to me seems like a mystery novel. Strictly Business Body Language, probably one that you and I should read immediately. And then finally, Poker Face. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with poker, but if you can read people's body language during a poker game, I love poker. So Jan, if that's the case, please let me know and I will go get that immediately. All right, my friends, do me a favor and welcome with a huge electronic virtual welcome one of my new favorite people, Miss Jan Hargrave.
Hi there. What a great introduction, Robert. And I looked at your body language and you were introducing me, and it was all good. You got an A+. And you said the book's right. You see, so Let Me See Your Body Talk. That was from the song. Let Me Hear Your Body Talk. The song, mine is Let Me See Your Body
That's
Talk.
Why it rang true. That's why it sounded familiar.
Okay, and then Freeway of Love was from Patti LaBelle's On the Freeway of Love. And you see, that one's all about romantic body language gestures, things that guys do or girls do that say, oh, baby, get over here. And then Judge the Jury. I work in the courtroom, so it's how to spot a liar. Judge the Jury is how to spot liars. And then Strictly Business Body Language is body language in sales and negotiation. And then Poker Face, you're correct. It's how to win at the poker table. It's poker players' body language.
Love it.
So that's what I do. Well, it's good to meet you, and I'm pleased to be here and bring this information to this group of people who are with us today. And so, Robert, I'll kick it off and just tell them some things about me and who I am. But I am Jan, and I'm a body language expert. So what I do is that I study how a person moves his hands and his arms and his eyes and his shoulders, everything about him. And then I interpret that, and I tell you what's going on inside of his head. Now, I am involved in jury selection, so there's a pretty serious side to what I do. And I specialize in how to tell when someone's telling the truth versus how to tell when someone's telling a lie. So maybe while I'm with you today, I can teach you how to spot when someone's not being honest with you. Better yet, I could teach you how to lie to someone and they won't even know that you're lying to them. So people read is what I do. I studied it in college, did my graduate research in the field of body language, and then brought it into business, because it does not matter what you're doing for a living. You're still going to have to communicate with someone. And I feel that a body language, if you're effective at it, you can be a lot of presentations, your negotiations. So I want to give you some percentages. 55% of our communication is nonverbal, 55%. So that's why when someone sees you right away, they'll get an impression of you and they'll say, do I like that person, or do I trust that person, or do I even want to have a conversation with them? That is 55% of your communication is how your shoulders are, what kind of motions you're doing with your hands. Do you have a tilt in your head? Everything that you do with your body language says something about what you're thinking or feeling. Body language gives information on your feelings and your emotions. Your words that you come out of your mouth give information about the knowledge that's in your head. So body language is feelings and emotions. Words are actually the knowledge that you're giving out from your head. So back to the percentages, 55% of our communication is nonverbal. 38% of our communication is voice inflection, because I know that when your mother scolded you, her voice was a different tone from when she was sweet with you. So voice inflection plays a big, big part in body language. And then lastly, only 7% of a person's communication does come from the words that they say. That's why we say that old saying, actions speak louder than words. We say so much about ourselves, from the way that we move our hands, the way we move our arms. And now that we have virtual communication, I think it's even more important, because everything about you is magnified on the virtual screen. So if you have a tick in your face, you move your hands a certain way, it's going to really come across to other people, and they'll form impressions. Our impressions are formed by others in the first 2 to 7 seconds that they see us. So the moment you see someone, you get that impression. And first impressions are seldom changed. So if someone gets an impression of you at first that they like you, they'll probably keep that impression. If they get an impression they don't like you, it's going to be really tough for you to change what they feel about you. So nonverbal communication is my thing. Studied it in college, really got into it. I was, first of all, trying to decide if this young man liked me, really is how I got into it. Because my professor would walk in per day and say, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. And one day said to me, he said, Jan, I know what you are thinking. And I said, how can that old fool know what I'm thinking? Because it always wasn't too pretty. So he is the one who introduced me to the world of body language. And I said, you mean I can really look at the way a person moves his hands and arms and shoulders and tell what he's thinking? He said, yeah, you can do it. And that's when I became so interested in it. And from that moment on, I never let it go. And now I realize it's so ultra important that we're doing nonverbal communication training, because when COVID hit in March, I thought, how will everyone use nonverbal? Because I was so used to being in front of an audience to speak. But it's more important now. And I figured out something that I call the triple threat method. How to effectively use your face, your hands, and your shoulders to come across as credible as you used to come across when you were in person with someone. How to deliver warmth when you're talking with someone on these virtual conversations. How to deliver likability, how to show competence. And there is a way that you can do it to make the connection. Because years ago, when we were preparing TV anchors, I spent a good part of my career helping TV anchors to use the appropriate body language when they were delivering news. So if we are watching news people and we're watching their body language, there's some we like and there's some we don't like. And some of those people, we like them because we like their body language subconsciously. And some we don't like because we don't trust their body language. So that's what we have to take into consideration now when we're doing these virtual conversations. Let's take the information that I train people on television to use, and let's use it for ourselves when we're having conversations with others. So I'm going to start off and give you 3 or 4 gestures that you often see, and you just tell me if you think it is true, you think it is false. For number 1, I'll do this. If you're in a conversation with someone and while they're listening to you, maybe they sit back and they just rub their chin this way. So for question number 1, I want to say, let's say it's a man you're talking with and he just rubs a chin this way. This is a gesture that says that he is seriously contemplating what is being said. Would you think that that is true? Would you think that that is false? Can you just kind of put that in your mind for a bit? I want to give you 5 questions on your exam. So let's try this for number 2. And 2 is really easy. You'll do a great job with this when it goes like this. People who constantly jingle the change in their pockets. When a man will constantly jingle the change in his pockets, it is a gesture that says that he is quite concerned about his financial situation. Do you think that that one is true? Do you think that that one is false? Let me try this for number 3. And 3 is kind of frightening, but I want to see how you think and feel about it. And it goes this way. People who tend to use their left hand a lot tend to lie a lot. Do you think that that one is true? Do you think that that one is false? And notice the way that I asked it. I did not ask and say people who are left-handed. Simply said people who tend to use their left hand a lot when talking. Those are the ones who tend to more so lie a lot. I'm going to keep that one in so that you can see what's going on there. I will throw in for you one in for you for number 4 that is just meant to be fun. If you are watching a man and a woman, and during that casual conversation, the man, while they are speaking, would begin to pull up his socks. So for question number 4, I simply want to ask this. When a man begins to pull up his socks during a casual conversation with a lady, it usually says that he would like to ask that lady out on a date. Do Do you think that that one's true? Do you think that that one's false? And I'll leave that one in because I think it's just kind of fun, and I'll teach you the answer at the end. And then let me ask you this one for number 5. And I think once you see number 5, then the concept of people reading, because that's what my aim is while I'm teaching and working with you today, is to help you to people read better. Not only people who you see, but yourself. Because I want you to figure out, what kind of impression do I send out every time someone sees me? Always be aware of your own nonverbals, and I want you to be aware of the nonverbals you receive when you're watching someone else speak. So for number 5, let's try this. Let's say that you're in a conversation and you start noticing maybe your hands go away from your body. Maybe they come back towards your body. Maybe they move somewhat around you this way. And even probably some of you have said, if I could not use my hands, I could not even speak. That is so true. But let me tell you why it is perfectly okay for your hands to move when you're speaking. Your hands move because they help you to get information that is located here inside this huge thing called a brain or called a computer outside of your mouth. If you had to speak to someone for 30 minutes and were not allowed to use your hands, let's say you had to talk and you had to keep your hands behind you the whole time, it would become very difficult for you to organize your thoughts and get them out in a logical fashion. It is the motion of your hands that help you pull things out of your brain so that hopefully when we speak with people, we logically make sense. So let me just teach you this about hand motions. Anytime you move your right hand, or for that matter, anything that you move on the right side of your body, your right hand, your right shoulder, your right arm, your right leg, any motion on the right side of your body, that is all controlled from the left side of our brain. And our left brain, this is your math, this is your science, this is your history. Your timetables are located here on the left side of your head. If you are multiplying something inside your head and you have trouble getting the numbers multiplied, you would end up moving your right hand. It would help clarify what you're thinking. And then finally, you could speak those words. When you move your left hand, or any motion that you see on the left side of your body, any motion on this side of your body, that's going to be controlled from the right side of your brain. And our right brain, this is that fun side. This is a comical side. This is a side that daydreams. If ever you drove somewhere and you cannot recall how you got there, of course you got there driving right brain. But think about why your precious hands move. Your hands move because they're helping you get information that is up here when you're trying to talk with people. I mean, if you could not use your hands, it would become very stressful for you to organize your thoughts and get them out of your mouth. So watch question number 5. Someone's talking with you. You notice their hands go out. Maybe they come back to them, come out from them. And then you're going to watch them do this. This is always the first gesture I teach to individuals. When someone is doing this gesture, it is a gesture that says that this person lacks confidence. I'm doing that as a true or false though. When someone does this, do they look confident to you, or would they look nervous to you? And I'm going to answer number 5 right now, and I'll come back and catch 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll let this be the very first gesture that I teach you today. I'm putting my fingertips together in a relaxed steeple. It's never going to be that you're praying, because that's not a good gesture. It has to be that just the fingertips are touching and it's really, really relaxed. It's never solidly strong. Every time you're going to see this gesture, this is a gesture called steepling in body language. It is always associated with a level of confidence. Anytime you're going to see this gesture, it always represents a level of confidence that someone feels. It doesn't have to necessarily be done with all the fingertips together. I could watch someone simply put the pointer fingers together and maybe have the hands here. I could watch someone put the thumbs together, drop them down to their chest, and there's still a steeple showing. I can watch someone in an event sitting just this way. Anytime you're going to see this kind of formation, it's always going to be associated with the level of confidence. Even when my fingers are not touching and my hands are here, this is called a goalpost steeple. So if ever you're presenting and you need to look more confident than you are, make sure that every now and then you do some kind of a gesture with your hands, because you must every now and then show your hands during these virtual conversations, because people will trust you faster when they can see your hands. You don't want to make your hands big and exaggerating, because then you look too exaggerated in your own speech. They have to kind of be flowing so that you make the person feel comfortable when they're listening to you. So this is a huge gesture of confidence. If ever you need to use it, just go ahead and use it when you're speaking with people. The reasoning behind the hand motions, and I'll get into some that I think would be wise for you to use during these virtual conversations, because, you know, we're all selling ourselves. We're perhaps selling a product. We're wanting to present ourselves in the best manner that we can. But if you know a few things about it, I call it the triple threat: your shoulders, your face, and your hands, you're going to have it made, and you can project yourself in a good, positive manner. So the reason that I want you to show your hands is to think of it this way. And let's think of the history of hands for a bit. Hands probably gave birth to you. Hands held you if you were hurt or you were a child and they fed you. But hands can also be dangerous. Hands could harm you in the neck. Hands could do some very cruel things to you. So without you even noticing, subconsciously, when you first see someone, you're thinking, okay, where are their hands? Where are their hands? It doesn't even go through your mind that quickly, but subconsciously, that's why when a cop says, show me your hands, that is a whole indicator there. So for someone to feel comfortable with us, we sometimes will have to show them our hands. So you just do it in kind of a relaxed manner. And when your gestures come towards you, you're trying to bring them into your conversation. When your gestures go away from you, you're trying to stop them from entering your conversation. You never want to do this. This is a stop gesture. It says, you quit talking because I have something to say now. You want to do it in a softer format than that, especially on these virtual conversations, because everything is going to be magnified. Some of the gestures that I teach people to use with their hands during these virtual calls, of course, I say, do the steeple whenever you can. And another one would be, pretend that I'm holding on to an imaginary basketball and I'm just talking with you. And then every now and then I lean forward and I want to give the ball to you. That is a nonverbal gesture that says, I have all of this information, the ball of my hands, and I will gladly share it with you. So think of your hands as punctuation marks. You have to have sentences that have some kind of motion in it when you're talking, or else you look too stiff. And as fluid as you can make your hand motions, the better it is for you. Now, I work for ABC News and NBC News and CBS News and Fox News, and I often do the body language of the politicians during the debates. And I know next week we're having some debates. So when you're going to watch them too, I want you to watch for some of the nonverbals. And oftentimes, I'll see someone who is polished, they think in body language, and they'll do the steeple gesture because they say, oh, wow, people are going to think that I'm comfortable when I do the steeple gesture. You have to be careful of where that gesture appears in your sentence, because that's how you can tell when someone is lying to you or pulling the wool over your eyes, is when the gesture does not appear at the appropriate time. For example, someone might say an entire sentence and then they're going to say, oh, I forgot to do the steeple gesture. When the gesture is too delayed, it is probably not a gesture that is genuine to them. A true gesture comes out simultaneously with the word that it matches, or comes out 1/25th of a second before it is the word that you're saying that matches it. So you have to be careful of that when you're thinking about nonverbals. And the 3 C's of body language that I want you to be aware of, the C's are context, the second one is congruence, and the last one is clusters. And when I say context, when you're studying a body language gesture, always think of the environment that that gesture appears in. In other words, if I saw someone with crossed arms in a meeting, that is different from watching a lady on a park bench in the middle of winter with her arms crossed. She's probably cold, and probably the person in the meeting doing this is not being receptive to what you're thinking. So that's what I'm saying here when I say context. Always think about, where do I see, what's the setting that this gesture appears in? The next one is congruence. You can spot when someone is trying again to pull the wool over your eyes, is if their gesture is not congruent to the words that they're saying. If I said to you, I love you, but my head's going into a no, I think you would read the body language of my head going this way than actually the words that I'm saying. Remember, actions speak louder than words. People will believe your actions before they believe your words. And then the last one is clusters. So if I'm watching someone for signs of confidence, I won't just see a steeple and say, oh my gosh, they're confident. I will look for at least 3 confidence gestures to make sure that that person is truly confident. So context, congruence, and then clusters are the 3 C's you need to look for when you're looking for body language. So going back to the body behaviors during these calls and in person, you need to always make sure that your shoulders are exactly even, because unevenness of shoulders is indecisiveness of person. So if I'm talking with you and I'm leaning this way during the whole time of my conversation, I would probably after a while not be trusted. As much as you can, you need to square off the shoulders. And when we talk about hands and arms, when you're talking, sometimes you may have to exaggerate your gestures a bit, because it had always been studied in body language that size of power you need around you is the size of space you need around you is equivalent to the size of power you feel you have. Now that's kind of hard to understand. So let me relate it to you this way. If you saw 3 limousines coming down the freeway and one limousine is larger than the other 2, you naturally think the most important person is in the largest of the 3. In the office buildings, typically the person who ranked the highest in that office building had the biggest office. So when we get into meeting rooms, we let other people know how powerful we feel we are by some of our body language. So an exaggerated gesture would be this. When people just stay in a meeting room with their arms crossed and their legs crossed, that is a weak, weak, weak posture. When you're seated this way, you look defeated, and it looks as though someone can just kind of penetrate you and get their way with you. As much as you can when you're talking, maybe expand it. And I think of Oprah. Oprah never interviews anyone with their arms crossed. Oprah even gets this way. She'll put an arm on a chair and she'll talk with you like this, because she's giving the impression the more space I need right now, the more power it looks like that I'm going to have with you. So think about that when you're talking about the shoulders, when you're talking about the arms, when you're talking about even the hands. And also you can use your tone of voice nowadays really well when you're doing these virtual conversations. Women have 5 vocal tones, men have 3 vocal tones. So that's why women look like they can go high, high, and then low, low, and men usually have just these 3, and they sound a little bit monotone sometimes, but it's only because they just have 3 vocal tones. But your vocal tone can show expressions of happiness, expressions of disappointment. And people have called me lately and said to me, Jan, how will I read someone's emotion even though they have a mask on? You can read their emotions because you've always looked at your doctors when you visited your doctors in the past, and they may have had a mask on, and you could still tell if they were happy with you, they were disappointed with you. Emotions primarily will be aware of, you'll see them around the corners of the eyes. When someone is giving you a true smile, the eyes will crinkle a bit. When they're frowning, of course, the eyebrows will come down. So even if someone's wearing a mask, you can still see some of the emotions behind that mask. So now let me just spend a few minutes talking about maybe on some gestures of deception, some gestures of honesty, so that you have these under your belt, because daily I'm in that courtroom and I'm trying to figure out if someone's telling us the truth or not. And we're even doing virtual depositions now. So anything can be done virtually. And what I found when we had COVID that came about in March, I found that it was almost easier to read someone's body language on the virtual screen than it was when I was in person with them. Because when I'm in person with you, I have to look at your face and your shoulders and your hands, and I see all of your body. But on the screen, I can really read some good information about your facial expressions. There are only 7 basic universal facial expressions, only 7. It's anger, fear, contempt, happiness, sadness, surprise, and disgust. And nowadays, since you're doing these virtual conversations, you got to know all 7, because that's going to give you an insight into what the person is really feeling. And also, let's mention eyes. You must give people good eye contact. In fact, it is 60 to 70% of the time that you're talking with someone, you have to be looking at them straight in the eyes. And you'll have to train yourself that sometimes you need to look at the camera. We have a tendency, we want to look at the screen, but you must look at the camera, because when you're looking at the camera and they feel that you're with them at that moment to make this big connection that you need to make, a hormone is released from the pituitary gland called oxytocin. It's a bonding hormone. So I'm trying to do it to you now. I hope you feel that I'm bonding with you. So thinking of deception and thinking about eye contact to show you how important eye contact is. So 60 to 70% of your time, the time you're talking with them, you got to give them good eye contact. It's a sign of courtesy, a sign of respect, a sign of saying, encouraging you that I'm still listening with you. So though when we're trying to find out if someone is being deceptive with us, we do base a lot of it on what kind of eye contact they're giving us. We base a lot of it on the level of their voice, because a voice is a certain thing when people lie, and a voice is a certain thing when people tell the truth. And then, of course, I study your hands. So the 3 eye behaviors that we have a hard time trusting the story associated with them are, we probably never trust someone's story if their eyes won't meet ours. I want you to be very careful about that too. We have a difficult time trusting someone's story if their eyes excessively blink when they're telling us their story. And we almost never trust someone's story if their eyes stay closed for longer than necessary while they're talking with us. And I think you know what I'm saying. When someone has their eyes closed for this, you're like, what is going on with that person? If the eyes stay closed for too long, it generally says that they're blocking information about themselves from you. So eyes that never meet yours, eyes that excessively blink unless they're having trouble with contacts, and then eyes that remain closed for longer than necessary. And as I talk about eye behaviors, I must mention the words baseline behavior too. If I'm trying to figure you out, I will not first start talking with you about something I think you've lied to me about. I will start talking with you about something that you're comfortable with, your family, your children, your job, because I need to get a read on you. So to get a read on you and get a baseline on you, I want to see what are your gestures that you do when you're comfortable. So I might notice, oh, well, she touches her neck here with her right hand when she's comfortably talking about her children. She crosses her left leg over her right leg when she's comfortably talking about her job. So that would be your baseline behavior. Then when I ask you a difficult question, I would look to see what are the deviations from your baseline behavior. And the best example I can think of this, I had done Roger Clemens' body language for Fox News when Roger was accused of taking some growth enhancing drugs. Now, I live in Houston, so does Roger. When Fox called me, I said, I don't know if I'm going to say all this. But when I first started looking at his body language, I noted that he was a constant lip licker. And we're trained in the courtroom that if someone licks the lips too much, their mouth is dry, they're nervous, probably they're hiding information from us. But I could not come on national television and say, I think he's lying to us because he licks his lips so much. So what I did a lot of background research on Roger from years and years ago. And I noted that he had always licked his lips, whether he bats or whether he pitches. So for him, this licking of the lips is baseline behavior. I had to look for deviations from that to see in what areas I thought he was being deceptive. So that's why I'm saying when you're reading someone, don't just think, oh, he's blinking his eyes, he's lying to me. You have to make sure that that's not his baseline behavior. And you must look for 3 gestures of dishonesty before you say that someone is being dishonest with you. After I study your eyes, then I'm going to go to your voice. And what happens to someone's voice is that when you are stressed and strained and lying to me, your vocal cords get really, really tight and your voice gets a lot higher. So when people are being deceptive, the voice is high. When people are afraid, the voice is low. And then the last thing that, of course, we watch for is the hand motions. And people typically will move their hands a certain way when they lie. They move their hands a certain way when they tell the truth. So I'll give you 3 deception behaviors and I'll try to give you 3 honesty behaviors with hands. But even before I give you those, let me just try this with you. I will tell you 4 sentences about me, and I want you to figure out which one of my 4 is a lie. I'll put 3 that are true. I'll make sure that one is a deception sentence. So you know the sound of my voice. I'm going to make sure that my voice goes exceedingly high on my sentence that's a lie. All of you can see my eyes. I will make sure that my eyes weird out on my line that's deceptive, and then I'll put my hands differently. So here comes number 1, or A for A. I'll put my right thumb here, and I'll just simply say this. I once kissed Mario Lopez. I think you know Mario. He's in every TV, on every television, in every hotel. I once kissed Mario. For B, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take my hands, and I'm putting them behind me, and I'm just going to say this to you. My college graduate grade point average for my master's degree was a 3.8. For C, I'm going to try this. I'll take my hands in front of me and I'll cross them here and just simply say this. I was once selected crawfish queen in Southwest Louisiana. And then for D, I'm taking my hands and I'm just going to point them downwards and say this. I wrote an article on Tiger Woods' body language for Golf magazine. Will not tell you just yet which one is a lie, but something gave that lie away, and I never want you to be lied to again. So I want to give you a few gestures of dishonesty and honesty. What we have found from years in doing this research is this. When someone is highly deceptive and uneasy with what they're telling you, they have a huge tendency to gesture with their left hand, their left index finger, and as they're telling you their lie, they end up touching something on the left side of the face. I'll show you in a second what the liar touches, but I need to clarify one big fact with you. It is never that our left-handed friends lie more than our right-handed friends. The only reason the left hand is used for deception, and you can think about what I said at the beginning, this left hand is controlled from the right side of our head. Our right brain makes up a story. Our right brain tells a lie. Our right brain is being deceptive and creative. So when you're telling a lie, it's coming from this part of your brain. And because of that, the motor skill done is with this left hand. So watch this honesty gesture number 1. Someone's getting ready to tell you something, and they know that part of this is a lie. So this is what they're going to kind of swing their hand in front of them. They'll talk for a few minutes. And then when they get ready to tell you their lie, the hand stops moving and it simply touches the left side of the nose just briefly, and then goes underneath the nose and comes back and forth just for a few seconds briefly. Liars end up doing the nose touch twice and underneath the nose touch twice. I'm sure you've seen people do this and may have said to you, wow, you look real good in that dress, and you knew they were lying to you. This is why, because his hand is coming here. And the reason that a hand comes to the face is because the liar is trying to distract you from the wording that's coming out of the mouth. So they're trying to distract you maybe with the ring they have on, maybe with the watch they have on. If you're in a talk with someone and when they're talking with you, they're covering their mouth, you're not going to pay attention to the words. You're paying attention to the hand and the fingernails and the rings. Liars tend to bring a hand here to distract from you the information coming out of the mouth. And this gesture, this tiny gesture here, comes from something you did as a child. As a child, if you said something that you should not have said, you went, you tried to stuff it back in. You're still trying to stuff it back in, but now you're just being a little bit more sophisticated. And the reasoning why someone touches the nose, it's a physiological reason. Every time you tell a lie, you get a tingling sensation in your nose, and because of it, you end up rubbing. I know that you'll never touch your nose again with your left hand. If ever your nose itches on that side, you need to just come around and just rub it here. And also the rubbing of the nose goes back to the Pinocchio effect. You know, the more that someone lied, the longer that nose get, is the same kind of fashion here. Lying gesture 2 and lying gesture 3 involve this. Lying gesture 2, they're going to talk and maybe they'll pull right underneath the eye above the cheek here, or maybe they'll pull on the corner of the eye. This tiny tug does give a message that says, do not see very clearly what I'm saying because I'm not being fully truthful with you. And the third gesture of dishonesty is this one. They're going to talk with you and maybe rub on their ear while they're talking with you. There is no sense that someone does this. They're doing it so that you look here and that you do not look here. And when they're tugging of the ear, they're almost non-verbally saying, do not hear very clearly what I'm saying because I am not being fully truthful with you. There are hundreds of these, and I'll send you to a number where you can get a 5-page handout of what I say so that you can have all of this with you because I know that I talk kind of quickly. Let me show you a couple of honesty gestures. Right-handed gestures are honesty gestures. And the number one gesture of sincerity is still bringing the right hand to the heart and says, you know, it's a very truthful, a very sincere gesture. It is similar to the Pledge of Allegiance, but in the Pledge of Allegiance, our fingers are together. In the honesty, they're wide apart. You know, just as someone saying, I promise to tell the truth this way in the courtroom. When a man wants to be believed, sweet men always think they need to show us their palms. Men are like, I didn't go there. I've been here all night, honey. So you don't have to do this anymore. Just go this way. Like, you look good in that dress. I believe you. Just keep putting that right hand to your heart. But when I teach these classes in person and I talk with people afterwards, they get so mixed up. They come to me and they're doing all of the gestures at the same time. They're rubbing their nose, touching. They're like, yeah, Jan, that looks pretty good. But it kind of is going to happen like that for you. Your best way to learn how to read body language too, read every book that you can. But sometimes if you watch your television without sound, I know that you will be able to tell what's going on in that message that they're saying. But think why the left hand is used for dishonesty. Think why the right hand is used for honesty. And it all has to do with how the brain is configured. Out of my 4 sentences, my lie was C. A was true. I kissed Mario. B was true. That was my college grade point average. D was also true. I wrote the article on Tiger Woods. My lie was C. I was never crawfish queen, but I've eaten a ton of crawfish in my life. I am hailing from Louisiana, so you know that I would eat a lot of crawfish. The gesture I did was this. Anytime you see people who do excessive finger crossing, goes back to when someone was a kid and did this. So it's always better that you don't do any finger crossing. And even when you're talking with someone, just remember your lifted up palms are signs of acceptance. Your downward palms are signs of control. So when you're talking with someone, just lean back every time and put your hands this way. This is pleading. When my hands are like this, I'm begging you for something. You don't want to do that. You want to have your hands at a 45-degree angle and you're talking because you're emphasizing a point. Your arms serve as punctuation marks. Always remember that. And you cannot successfully communicate with others because I know people do TED Talks and what it says in TED Talks. And the percentages, I think this is what it said. Approximately 272 gestures were used by people who do TED Talks, but the most successful TED Talk personnel used about 465 gestures. So maybe you want to remember that with the next TED Talk that you do. So now let me just go to that one question I asked about courtship. And I said, if a guy pulls up his socks while he's talking with the girl, it might mean that he's considering asking her out for a date. And that is true. The nonverbal communication of love, the first gesture that a guy does when he's interested in someone, he's going to reach down, arrange those socks, maybe retie his shoe. It is the number one. So ladies, if you see a guy who's pulling up his socks, you know that what's going on in his mind is like, ooh, yeah, she looks good. And think where that comes from. You may hear one man say to another, he'll say, you need to see this girl. She'll knock your socks off. So that's where the sock pulling does come off. Another one that I think is really cute that men do. A man might be talking with you and have a Coca-Cola can in his hand. And as he talks, he squeezes it, then he lets it go and he squeezes it. Every time he squeezes that can, he's thinking to himself, I'd like to squeeze you, baby. So you might want to watch the cans of the guys you talk with. And then ladies' gestures are quite interesting. Most people think, oh, she touched her hair, she's bound to like me. That is not the first gesture that a lady does. The first gesture a lady does when she likes you, a lady will always cross her leg towards you. Women cross their legs towards people they like and away from people they don't like. So if we like you, we're going to cross our leg towards you. The next thing that a lady does when she sees someone she finds attractive and her leg is crossed, we start a slow kick. A slow kick is saying, yeah, you look good. Please come talk with me. You never want to see a lady kick her leg fast because that's an impatience kick. And the lady's number one gesture that says, I'd really like to talk with you now, is just a simple dangling of the shoe. Women dangle their shoes and men pull up their socks. Goes back to the Cinderella effect, the beginning of time with wedding chorus, people hung shoes. So feet play a big part in this whole gesture, all of this courtship, these courtship gestures. Getting back to some of the questions I asked from the beginning. Number two, I said, if a guy moves with a change in his pockets often, it means he's highly concerned about finances. And that is a true sentence. He either thinks about money a lot and wants to know where the next big bucks come from, or hardly has any coins, concerned about where the next pennies come from. So it's similar to Christmas time, a guy shaking coins, letting us know they need money. That is the whole same concept when a guy moves with a change in his pockets. And then lastly, I said, if a person's sitting in a meeting and they're doing this is a gesture that says, it's a really good gesture. It's an evaluation gesture. It's almost as though he's thinking how much of this stuff is true. So men will do this. It's a good gesture for you to see because at least they're evaluating what you're saying. Women evaluate by doing this. They'll slightly tilt the head this way and put a hand going upward. This is evaluation. This is boredom. So you never want to see someone doing this. And one thing I want you to watch during your negotiations, always look for a head tilt in your listener. When people have their head tilted a tad bit to the side, it usually indicates that they're interested in what you're saying. So as much as you can, let's hope that you get some head tilts while you're talking with them. So my intent, and I just kind of wanted to whet your appetite about this whole field of body language. My website is my name. It's janhargrave.com. You can get all of the books there. And I do have an online course. It's 13 modules. It's an online business selling course. And each module goes through a different part of the selling technique using nonverbal communication. Also, I'll give you a number to write down, and you just text my name, Jan, with a space, and then Hargrave, and you'll get a 5-page handout of everything that I said, plus more in-depth learning. So the number that you need to text my name to is 415-528-7403. And I think we'll put that on the bulletin afterwards. So what is that number? 415-528-7403. So in closing, I'll talk about the books that I saw. This is The Freeway of Love. This is the one about guys and girls and dating. This is strictly business body language. So this is sales and negotiation. Have pictures of every conceivable sitting, standing position you can think of. This is Let Me See Your Body Talk. And this is body language job interview, body language presentation skills. This is Judge the Jury, how to spot a liar. So that one's fun. And of course, this one's Poker Face, and that's how to win at the poker table. So if ever you need me to come gamble with you, I definitely will, because I, Jan Hargrave, am a bit of a gambler. And then, of course, this is my course. It's pretty tough for you to see, but it's 13 modules. And on the course, you also get a rapport building sheet. You get a big handout on, if you see negative body language, what are some things that you should do to counteract that and make the person be more positive with what you're doing. But I do think that understanding body language can get you to easier say yes or no to several propositions that come your way. Because if you feel uneasy about a situation, you need to trust your nonverbals. You need to trust your gut instincts. Because if you feel uneasy about it, you're probably being lied to. So make sure that you understand what's going on inside of your body. So in closing, and I'll just close with this funny thing. I usually close and say, yeah, you've been terrific, but that's not true, because that would be a lie. I'm going to put my right hand here and say, I had a good time with you. I hope that you learned some information from me, and I hope that you're quite aware of the nonverbals that you're sending out and pick up on all of the ones that are coming back to you. I know next week we're having the political debates, and so I've already been hired by some stations to watch the body language there. It's a good training session for you. So if you want to watch some of that and get your information and get your body language correct, that'll be a good handful of information. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Jan. That was fabulous. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I know, Robert, isn't it fun?
I'm going to be paranoid now. Every time I'm going to talk to somebody.
You better sit on your hands. Sit on your hands, Robert. But Robert, I hope that
let me see.
you never want to do this. You never want to scratch your hand. This is a sign of lying to people talking with you, scratching your hand, scratching your arm. So there's so many that, we couldn't even really cover today. But I think in that handout that I gave to them, then it's really detailed and they'll have some good information. But, if it helps us now, that's what we're trying to help people do, is to build the connections like we used to do. Because it said when I first started looking at all this in March that it took 2 weeks of virtual conversations to be as socially grounded as one handshake would make us, unless you have a little bit of training in this virtual body language. And if you do, within 2 virtual conversations, I think you can be as socially grounded as you could be with one handshake. So my buddy, I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned some things. I had a great time. Thank you to you and Courtney for having me with you.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And I feel like it's a whole new language. You say it's body language, but I believe that it's like sign language where you're literally learning a new language and how beneficial that language would be, right?
Because, this is what I tell people. We speak English, we speak French, we speak Spanish, we speak German. Why not learn to speak body language? And what I taught, though, today, I taught American body language because I still teach at the University of Houston. I live in Houston. So we teach classes there on every culture's body language, because every nationality does communicate a bit differently. But since we're here in US, I kind of gear it to American body language. But I'm glad you asked that, because I want our listeners and watchers to know that there is also another study, and that's everything that we do with different cultures. And what's interesting now is that different cultures now are coming here to me and saying, teach me about American body language, because maybe someone from another culture sees an American do this and they don't know that this is an okay gesture. They may think, oh, what's he doing that gesture for? So I think it's wise for even all of our other nationalities to know American body language for when they are negotiating here in US.
Well, I learned a lot, and I very much appreciate your time. You're a definite gift to all of us. And now I'm going to try not to be paranoid every time I open my mouth. I don't think I am, because I honestly feel like I am a genuinely honest person in every interaction. And so I shouldn't be nervous, but it's like when the cop pulls up behind you and he's driving behind you and you're like, did I do something wrong?
I know, probably, or like this. So you understood the history of the hands. Why cops say, show me your hands, because they want to feel safe. So even in our virtual conversations or everyday conversations, subconsciously, you don't even know that you're looking at their hands, but you are looking for their hands. So that's why every now and then in these, you have to show your hands this way, and then you can put them away. But every now and then you show it, because that's what's going to tell me about your sweet personality, is that I can see a few hand motions from you. So don't ever forget to do that.
Very great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. You're amazing. Have a great day. And I'm going to get your books, because I need to learn this language.
And those books, janhargrave.com. Everything is on there.
Got it.
The course is janhargrave.com/course. So then people can hear. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You got it. See you later.